They call character parts, which usually means you're a crappy actor. But yeah, anyway, so I don't know why I got this role, but
he's great.
I'm the I'm the co-creative director, whatever that means for the theater group. So so that's why I helped pick the play and that. But yeah, it's a really funny show. I kind of found it on the internet. I was looking around and just stumbled on this thing, and I was telling him it's kind of like Stephen Sondheim meets Rocky Horror Picture Show meets The Simpsons, right?
We'll just leave the door because Emma's sleeping. Okay. Evan's the one who's creating all this tension over the move, being really passive-aggressive about things. And this is the play they pick.
It's a musical.
I mean, it makes, I don't know, would you say it makes fun of the suburbs? It pokes fun at the suburbs? I mean, but it's not really satire, right?
Well,
I mean,
there's some satirical moments, yeah, I'd say.
Okay, there's a lot of satire, but anyway, no, it's, but I mean, it's got some really good parts to it too, like make you think about a lot of stuff. And I mean, let's face it, there's not things to laugh about in the suburbs, like, I mean.
I am blue. I'm trying to get myself off this as much as possible. I brushed into this thing once and it was complete disaster. Mom noticed right away. It was catastrophe. She had to spend more hours on it, reworking it and fixing it to get it back the way it was. I think I'll quit soccer. Yeah. Few slight adjustments.
The 20th century was kind of a nervous breakdown for architecture. The builders forgot what to do, the customers forgot what to ask for, and what we ended up with was a kind of cartoonification of our buildings. In this case, the bridal chapel in a mall behind me, a kind of a hybrid neoclassical French mansardic building with all the details gotten sort of wrong, and it all ends up looking like it was sort of half submerged in a hurricane starting from the second floor. There's a clownish, cartoonish aspect to these vistas of suburbia, but also a tragic element. Because what you're seeing here is the greatest misallocation of resources in the history of the world. And in the energy-scarce future that we're facing, they're probably not going to work very well.
Suburbia, of course, has places to live, places to work, and places to shop, and it's got schools. And traditional urbanism has all three as well. So it's not the functions that are different, it's actually how they're laid out, how they're disposed on the landscape. In the conventional suburban system, all the houses are in suburban pods by single income. They're cookie-cutter subdivisions. That's where people live. And some of them live in townhouses all in one spot, and some of them live in houses all in another spot, and some of them live in mansions elsewhere, in golf course communities, but single income. They're monocultures. And then there are the shopping centers, in which you actually go to the shopping center, and the only thing you can do there is shop. And then you go to the office park, and all you can do there is work. And sometimes you can't even get lunch, so you have to drive to lunch somewhere else. So they've taken what make up the traditional town, which is the places of living, the places of working, the places of shopping, and the civic buildings like schools and churches, and disaggregated them. Suburbia disaggregates the elements of daily life, so you have to drive from one to the other.
This is my friend Terry. I live in Mackenzie, which is just over that wall.
That's westish. So this is the westish side of Evergreen.
One of the aspects of my work that I've been concentrating on a lot recently is this issue of walkability in neighborhoods. What we've been finding is that over the past 40 or 50 years, suburban design has really failed us in terms of walkability.
That's east. Yeah.
The neighborhoods that were constructed before World War II have a really walkable environment. There's usually sidewalks that are provided on all of the streets and boulevards with trees that give you a feeling of shelter and shade and a really comfortable environment. But there's also places to go. There's convenience stores, there's schools and churches, and just a mix of uses that urbanists everywhere have been advocating, but it's pretty difficult to build now.
That's south. I had a friend that lived on this side of the freeway, and then another one that lived over there, and it's a big distance apart. And they used to send messages to each other in Morse code. They probably could have just phoned each other, but it was a fun game to send secret code. Yeah, they used like flashlights and like the windows. They stood me in like dance. Yeah, sort of thing.
In our North American environments, the cars are the most important things. There's a convenience store behind me, and that's the only store that's offered to this neighborhood. And the only way you can really get there and feel comfortable is in a car. You know, that's a pretty mean environment. If we're just building places that don't have a lot of options for shopping, for going and picking up a liter of milk, buying a newspaper.
My boundary, this is the furthest north I can go. Right there. I can't cross the road. You're not allowed. On that side, they're going to be building the new part of the community. And no, it's a whole new community. Yeah, it'll have its own name and everything. No, we don't know what it's going to be called. The people have probably made the name. It's just there's no signs up of what it's going to be called yet.
Well, for the first 6 months we moved in, this was beautiful. It was all fields and some standing trees and that, and then and behind in the distance, I don't think you can see it, but there's mountains all along there. So that was our view. Then they put up all these houses, right? They started building. But I don't know, I was saying to Ann, I think if you look through that window of that guy's house, and if he had his front door open, I think you can see the mountains, you know, because they're right there. Yeah, anyway, she didn't think it was funny either.
Well, she takes everything offends her, it seems. Anything we say about the community she doesn't want to hear it, right? Because we're out here and we're here to stay, so it's stupid to complain about it, I guess. But you know what, I bet you Mom doesn't, if Mom could move into the inner city and have a nice house, she would. It's just that we can't, so. And I guess we both know that. It's just the situation we're in just sucks, and I guess we're complaining when we don't really, there's no other way anyway.
They need to find something to complain about, so they're picking on the house and they're picking on the neighborhood. That's all. I don't know. It's not like they're, well, they have kind of blamed me a little bit, I think, or it feels like it sometimes, you know, they put it on me, but.
One of the things that happens when you buy into your little suburban dream house and you look at the contract and so forth is there, not appearing, but part of the contract is that you shall buy one car for each adult. You know, it says it describes the lot, it describes the square footage, but it doesn't say, oh, and by the way, to operate in this place, you need to have one car per adult. The fact is that about half of North Americans don't have access to a car. They're either too old, too young, or too poor to drive. And that is tremendously disempowering when really for your daily needs, you're dependent upon others.
I'm Karen Johnson, and this is my daughter, Nicole. And we live in the townhouses there, which I guess they call the Mosaic. And we've been there just for a little while, and it's okay. I don't mind it. I like it. And, well, it's a long way out, but it's nice to have your own place, so. The landfill's right there. That's always a lovely added feature, especially on a nice windy day.
Yeah, just
even in the wintertime, there's nothing like
aroma.
frozen garbage coming. You know when you have that freezer smell when you open up your fridge and it's kind of got that, what is that? That's kind of what it's like. It's very, very bad. Oh well.
Now, this is where the developer has achieved the higher densities that are required these days in most of the land use bylaws, but they've clumped it all in one corner. Oftentimes you find these large multifamily dwellings at the corners or on the edges of neighborhoods where they provide a sort of a sound attenuation function, and they also block the blight of a highway or of a big box retail center that most people would agree isn't a real visual amenity. And they also set up a kind of social apartheid where the multifamily areas are really seen as being much less desirable than the single-family developments. And here they're even separated by a large field. So it's really clear what's been established here is a two-tiered neighborhood where you really know your place.
You know, we did live in subsidized housing for a while, which was great. You know, single mom, they try to help you out, but it's just not great, you know. What ends up happening is that you just feel so bad about living there that you just really have to find your own place. And so where do you find your own place that's affordable?
I didn't mind the subsidized housing thing as much, but, you know.
I think it's safer where we are.
Despite having to stand at the bus stop.
I know that you disagree, but I really think that it's safer. I just think that, you know, you're with all those people and you just, it just attracts all kinds of people, and some of them you don't necessarily want for your neighbors. And so here, chances are that they're not going to be crackheads living next door to you.
This is a home that I've just listed on the lakeside of Chaparral. It's a 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath, 2-story home with a double front attached garage. It's basically a starter home on this side of the lake. It backs onto a park. It's about 1,750 square feet. It would be ideal for a first-time homeowner or possibly a young family with their first home.
This is future church or single-family housing. The people here, I think they'd rather a church here because they already have a whole bunch of single-family housing along there.
What I don't get is how do you know which one it's gonna be? Like, what if you just want single-family housing and not the church, or vice versa? How does that work?
I call this a move-up home. It's a home on the lakeside again. However, it's a little bit larger home, probably a total square footage living space of about 2,500 square feet. It has 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, family room, a few more upgrades. We had a lot of people in this area that moved from one home to another. As the years go, they just moved to larger homes.
This is the future daycare or single-family housing.
$10 says it's gonna be single-family housing.
We're a lake community, so basically all the recreation that you can possibly need is right here in the neighborhood. The kids don't have to go out of the neighborhood to find things to do, or the seniors for that matter. In the area we have a large lake. At the lake you can go swimming, you can go boating. I've actually taken all of my scuba diving courses at the lake and I've got certified there. It's a facility of all things that you can possibly want. This home is actually located right on the lake at Lake Chaparral, so of course it's the upper scale of the homes that are in this community. It has its own private dock. It has full lake access right out your back door. It's sort of the home that I would like to have, but haven't managed to get there yet.
escape from Mexico, we usually escape?
Escape to Mexico.
Escape to Mexico.
Escape to Mexico is pretty much when you have as many guys as you have, and then you have one guy who shoots at them while they try to escape.
This one time we only had one gun, so it was pretty pointless. We just had like 3 people running around screaming in the field while the other guy shot at them.
We do a lot of work in subdivisions. We're contracted by builders to maintain basically order, to make sure that thieves don't take lumber and materials that belong to the contractors and the builders. So we also want to make sure that kids don't get into mischief and maybe fall in a hole. People think that the community is public property, when in fact it is private property and it is owned by the developers.
This is Bordeaux. It's a wine, a place in France, and a place in Cranston. But my brother's friend Hong thinks it's Bordeaux.
Gymnastics, man. Here's a tip for you if you have kids. Don't do the gymnastics thing, okay? Because it's like 4 times a week they practice. And it seems like there's some competition going on like every second weekend or something. If you added up all the miles that we put on to take her to gymnastics, it would blow your mind. I wouldn't even want to calculate it.
Well, I do gymnastics Monday to Friday, except for Tuesday and Wednesday, 3 days a week for 4 hours. And then I have karate on Saturday, piano on Wednesday. Tuesday's kind of my friend or homework day.
It needs to be a little bit more organized for them now. It's not like they can run and play the way I could, They need to be supervised a little bit more. So, and she likes it.
The popular mantra is that suburbia is great for kids, but kids older than 7 need more than just a place to ride their bikes. They need to develop this thing called their personal sovereignty, their ability to manage themselves in their own environment and to know how to get home from their friends' houses on their own, to know how to get to a store and make a purchase of something. They need connection to civic and commercial and social amenities, and they need to be able to develop themselves socially this way. And they don't get that in these car-dependent places where they absolutely depend on the family chauffeur, mom, to take them from one place to another all the time.
As a kid, we just hung out. That's all. We didn't have all these activities, but it wasn't all fun and games. I mean, we'd get into trouble. We'd go hang out behind the skating rink, the shack at the skating rink, and smoke. And we were in grade 6, for God's sake, That's not a better activity than going to gymnastics or learning piano, I certainly don't want my kids for that to be a choice, They have the choice that they can do piano or dance or gymnastics or something like that. It's different. It's different now. I think it's better that they're learning stuff and not just, I don't know, starting fires and stuff like that.
Okay, so this is a movie. It was Kyle's idea. We did it for a talent contest. See how many paintballs Kyle could take. It got disqualified from the talent show, but we convinced our teacher to show it to just our class, and it went over really well.
Be able to withstand.
4. I'm kidding.
Can we tie you to the tree? And we were debating whether to tie him to the tree because we thought he might, like, instinct would be to run.
Faster than you.
Yeah, and we have. See, Kyle's holding a bag there. It was my idea. We were going to put a bag on his head with a happy face on it to make it seem less violent, but Kyle didn't want to wear the bag. What? Okay, what? Kyle's brain just kicked in as of now. This was originally just for comical, like, use, but then Mr. Muldoon thought, wow, you have some nice dark overtones, so I think that's interesting. Oh, and here we go.
Oh, here we go.
And there's the one that hits you in the cup. Thank God.
And there's one that's like a kill shot head.
Yeah.
There it is.
That's like the most painful thing I've seen.
You want a breather, Kyle?
It was pretty silent and like tense
Yeah.
until Honk started atrociously laughing, and it broke the mood, and everyone started laughing.
I don't know why. It was just so funny.
Take off the shirt, take off the shirt.
Just give me a second, okay?
Kyle, I don't think I got all that. I'm kidding.
I didn't find that very funny.
Get at, that hurts.
Oh, you got shot in the
Darren cried after 2 balls.
How many welts did you count?
48 or 50, something like
And
that.
those are just the ones that left welts.
Don't shoot me anymore. I've had enough of shooting for a while. We're horrible people.
And we are horrible people. We are horrible people. And then it just goes to credits.
Look at that, there it is. Our sign. Finally got it up. It's gonna get us some interest in the play. Sell a few tickets. You know, sometimes I'll have a really good idea whether I'm driving around or whatever, and you know, something really significant or, I don't know, profound, if you will, and you know, something that I really want to make a change. You know, so I should do that. That's something I should do. And then, you know, I get home, I sit on the couch, crack a beer, and if I can remember what the idea was, maybe Anne's not home and nobody to talk it through with, so, or, you know, and you start thinking, maybe that wasn't such a good idea, you know, what was it anyway? And, you know, maybe something with the kids, right? A crisis, something happens you got to deal with, and you never really get back to that idea, something to think through, and happens a lot. I mean, I don't think I'm like a great procrastinator, but you know, life gets in the way of a lot of things. Life seems to happen to me a lot, you know. I don't know. What are you gonna do, I guess?